Previously on Bearded Bible Brothers.
Got it. Ha.
The Essenes, they were this cult believers of a very harsh version of Judaism.
They actually recorded these Dead Sea Scrolls.
And the Essenes believed that the second temple was going to be destroyed as well.
They were actually looking for a messianic figure, the Messiah to come, and he was going to help them build a third temple.
They also knew that there would be a fourth temple built by God.
I'm surprised they got so many details right. Adventure beckons me, but the true prophetic destruction of my people brought on by the third temple, it's what motivates me to press on. There are many missing steps, elements needed to complete before the Jewish people can even begin the construction of the third temple. Well, yes, they need the temple treasures. They need the Ark of the Covenant and a spotless red heifer. But the one most important element missing is the Holy Grail.
Josh, they need holy waters, not the Holy Grail. You know, living waters?
Brother, everybody knows that the holy water is in the Holy Grail. What am I doing here? It's the cup of Christ. Really? You're the theologian? Anywho, the Holy Grail. I'm going to find it. I'm going to drink out of it.
All right, Josh, let's get back to the story. We're visiting a barely known site of Solomon's Pools in the West Bank. Why do people rarely come here? Because it's under control by the Palestinian Authority. We can't discuss the coming third temple without uncovering how they got living water all the way to the Temple Mountain to pass. Without living water, there is no sacrificial system, no water of cleansing with the ashes of a red heifer, and no purifying the priests or mikveh baths for the worshipers. Wow, we made it here to the Pools of Solomon. They gave us an amazing welcome. Where'd you get that coffee?
You didn't get coffee? This is a Pool of Solomon coffee. Okay. You should count yourself in need.
These three reservoir pools are direct evidence of a massive construction project that was used to send millions of gallons of water into Jerusalem. These pools hold 75 million gallons total, and they would travel by 2 aqueducts into Jerusalem to bring fresh water to the temple. So they always had living water. This is the second pool, is it not? This is the middle pool.
Yeah, this is the middle pool. And really one of the things that you know, there's a lot of discussions about how old these pools are.
Yeah.
There's a lot of archaeological evidence to say they at least must go back to the time of the Hasmoneans, that they, you know, were certainly in the time of Herod because he built off the aqueducts here and carried it to the Herodian. But, you know, one of the things that you have to understand about Jerusalem is it also needed water, and this was the source of water for Jerusalem. They have a Gihon spring there that provides a little bit of water. It's actually got some seasonal flow. It's not really a giant spring.
So it dries
and so,
up in certain season, yeah.
And so in order for Jerusalem really to grow, it had to have water. And this is the primary source of water, and we know that Solomon built also aqueducts and pools of water and water systems. And so there's a lot of reason to be thinking about these pools as we look back based on, you know, even the accounts in Ecclesiastes that it talks about him building pools of water and bringing them. But Jerusalem would not have existed in any kind of large size without these pools. This is the source of water. It goes from here all the way to the lower aqueduct that fed to the Temple Mount, which would have been needed for sacrifices. It also fed to the Damascus Gate and the whole northern part of Jerusalem. So there were 2 main sources of water that for all times that we can know about the history of Jerusalem, besides the early Canaanite days, it must have had a greater source of water than what we see there presently today.
Ecclesiastes 2:4-6. I, Solomon, undertook great projects. I built houses for myself and planted vineyards. I made gardens and parks and planted all kinds of fruit trees in them. I made reservoirs to water groves of flourishing trees.
You know, these trips are always incredibly easy to disseminate all the information that we're trying to tell everyone. Like when we showed up to this shoot and the head of all the Palestinian antiquities and history got us on speakerphone and spent 30 minutes telling us exactly what the truth was and how we got to disseminate it. In fact, we had people filming us the entire time and following us to make sure that we gave them their interpretation of the story. So we had to create a barricade between them and Caleb and anyone on camera so that we could actually give you the real truth of what happened. I was that barricade.
What I really want to know is, why is this important of a temple? I mean, obviously it was completely necessary to have living waters, but what is this connection to even the future temple?
Right. Well, you couldn't have gotten going with sacrifices at the temple location the way that we understand temple service without a really good source of water. And the source of water that's there had to be continuously fed. And you don't have that with the Gihon Spring. You don't have the ability to get that water. So this really had to be there from the beginning of the temple service. And so as I was trying to put together the whole story on, where was the temple located, and looking at ties with Solomon, this is part of that story. And it's part of the things that I started questioning about, what the experts were saying. This looks like it matches the accounts. And so, finally, why does an engineer have to write, a book called The Temple Revealed, right? Because I don't think that the Bible is being used as the number one, source of information for people's understanding of the archaeological evidence that we have. And without that, you're going to draw, I think, some wrong conclusions, and you're going to miss what the Bible has been showing us right in front of our faces. And, like the accounts of Solomon riding 50 furlongs to go to his pools.
That's right. Josephus talked about it. Every day he rode in his chariot down here because it wasn't just the pools. There's a whole garden that he had here. It was beautiful.
Josephus' Antiquity of the Jews. There was a certain place about 50 furlongs distant from Jerusalem, which is called Etham. Very pleasant it is, and fine gardens, and abounding in rivulets of water. Thither did he, Solomon, used to go out in the morning, sitting on high in his chariot. That's a terrible translation.
And of course, with this much water, you're going to have a fantastic garden. Right? But it's not just the garden here. You couldn't have life, like we talked about, in Jerusalem without a source of water like this. It just wasn't enough to support, a giant city and all the temple services with the Gihon Spring itself.
So what you're saying is it had to have been built at the same time as the first temple period, or it wouldn't have existed at all.
That's right. All of that, it's like the irreducible complexity argument. It's like you need all of these things together in order to have what we see there. And, this is, again, only the middle pool. We have another pool down below,
The lower pool.
which might be later. That might be an addition. But certainly we have two giant pools of this magnitude here. And even the third pool, all these pools were continuously maintained and held up for, 3,000 years, basically. Wow. And so you're going to have all kinds of different layers of repairs and construction that's going on here. But, what we see here is evidence that this was part of the original developments and the growth of Jerusalem.
And it was in continuous use, like you said, until 1967 when they cut it off. So imagine, it was so well done, it was so well constructed for 3,000 years. It took care of people, and absolutely necessary because of a dry desert climate where people needed water continuously. So this is magnificent evidence for your case, and a magnificent find archaeologically that is forgotten. The evidence for this site being the main source of living water for Solomon's temple is pretty strong. There couldn't have been a sacrificial system in operation in Jerusalem, let alone enough water to sustain the population, as the 12 tribes would pilgrimage to worship there without the aqueduct system that originated here. This is an incredible sight. I'm still blown away how much water can be held in these reservoirs, these 3 reservoirs. Thanks for taking us here and explaining all this stuff.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. It's millions of gallons of water here that would have been needed for Jerusalem. I'm excited to go see where these aqueducts take us to.
All right, but the sun is setting now, so we're gonna have to go to Jerusalem tomorrow morning and see if we can trace the path of where these water channels reached all the way to Jerusalem.
Sweet. Right. Can I bring my inner tube?
Why not?
Like, can I go down the aqueduct, like sitting on a tube?
I don't know if that's the safest thing. It's kind of dried up now.
Oh, okay.
I think you should try it anyway.
The Bearded Bible Brothers is an outreach of Zola Levitt Ministries. Visit levitt.com to subscribe to our monthly newsletter, The Levitt Letter, or call 1-800-WONDERS. Check out our resources we have available on our online store, or learn more about our tours to Israel, Greece, and Petra. You can also visit beardedbiblebros.com to subscribe to weekly digital updates through email and watch our online videos and content. Your donations and love gifts help us continue our mission to bring the gospel to the Jew first. We thank you for your faithful support. Nothing can stop the prophetic coming of the Third Temple, but you can learn more about the intricacies surrounding its biblical fate with our resources in the Third Temple package. Included are Zola Levitt's past teachings from his book, Satan in the Sanctuary, the audio CD companion, Tribulation Temple, and the DVD series, The Temple. Use these tools as your guide to witness to the Jewish people before it's too late. For your donation of $60 or more, you can receive all 3 resources, or purchase them each individually. Call now or visit levitt.com for the Third Temple package.
Here we are at the Western Wall Plaza, the Kotel, and here we can see actually behind us on the steps that are over there going up to the Mount Zion, the Jewish quarter, is the remains of an aqueduct that goes all the way back to the pools of Solomon that we saw.
Wow.
And it ran across this mountain behind us. It comes around, and these are actually the remains of the bridge that went from the Temple Mount over to the Mount Zion. It traveled through here and fills the aqueducts of the Temple Mount for use of living water on, temple sacrifices and all that kind of stuff that they would bring up using a wheel and somehow up onto the Temple Mount. And that's recorded in the Mishnah when they say that. But it's like we're right here. You can see that you have the elevation that's needed to fill this with water. You needed that from the beginning of the time that this whole plaza was built. I mean, it's just, it's amazing. All this infrastructure that had to be made in order to build God's temple here, even from the very beginning.
That's a lot of work to get that done. 2 Chronicles 7:11 through 16. When Solomon had finished the temple of the Lord appeared to him at night and said, I have heard your prayer and have chosen this place for myself as a temple for sacrifices. Now my eyes will be open and my ears attentive to the prayers offered in this place. I have chosen and consecrated this temple so that my name may be there forever. My eyes and my heart will always be there.
That passage in 2 Chronicles 7 is so important to understand when you're wondering, why do people come to pray at this wall, right? Why did they come to pray here? It's not that, God doesn't hear you when you pray anywhere else. It's just that there's a special promise that God made to hear you when you do pray from this place.
It's important because he says, pray toward me.
Yeah.
And even when Daniel was captive all the way in Babylon, said he went, or even in Elam and all the different places he was taken, he went to his window and prayed 3 times a day toward this place.
Yes.
Because they believed that God could hear him.
As was his practice.
As was his practice.
It wasn't just that he was crying out for help, but he did it on the regular. And I think that's something to remember for us. We need a regular commitment of relationship, not just a get out of jail free prayer when we're in trouble.
Absolutely, and it's praying to God. It's not praying to the stones.
Right.
Yes,
Right,
that's
it's
right.
praying towards this place.
Yep.
Not praying toward a Kaaba.
Right.
And it's also not ritualistic.
Yes, it's not.
It is a regular thing, but it's not just a ritual. I mean, even like, Jesus said, don't just have vain repetitions, but like to come with your heart before him and in worship and in that attitude of adoration and relationship. So important, man.
The ancestral Jewish heritage of Jerusalem is under attack. The world, the United Nations, and most importantly, the Palestinian Authority want to rewrite the history of the Jewish people. They want to disinherit them from their land of Israel that God gave to them. And they want to do this in many different ways. But there's one really big problem. You can rewrite and change history all you want, but you know what doesn't change? Archaeology. That's right, the rocks. They're right there, and they've been there the entire time. And what have they found? On the Temple Mount, they found a Hebrew temple, pre-existing the Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa for like centuries. I hate to tell you this, the Palestinians are the squatters.
We are currently adjacent to the City of David archaeological site in what was once known as the Gavati parking lot. Guess who's not parking here anymore? Not Gavati, only archaeologists. Why? Because they discovered 10 civilizations deep right here, going all the way back to the 10th century kings, all the way to early Islamic period. So guess what? Can't hang out here now unless you're getting out awesome artifacts.
That's
Yeah, this
cool.
pottery is really how they kind of know that it goes back to the 10th century.
Yep.
Yeah, along with this pottery, they found over hundreds, 200 some Byzantine coins under Emperor Heraclea.
Yeah.
And then you've got Queen Helena, her domain down here.
Yeah.
One of the most amazing parts that's biblically accurate is a pot that has an engraved name of Nathan Melech, a servant of the king,
Ooh.
that actually is found in 2 Kings.
So we have biblical accuracy here, but they also found an extra biblical story that did happen. They found the fortress of Acre, a watchtower, fortified walls, and within that fortress they found minted coins with a trident symbol that matched the reign of Antiochus Epiphanes IV. You guessed it, the Antichrist who committed the first abomination of desolation. He was here. That's an eerie foreshadowing of the abomination to come, guys. Now guys, the real reason why I wanted to come here, the others don't know, is that over there's an entrance to an underground passageway. It's an ancient water canal that passed under the Pilgrim's Road. It led from the Pool of Siloam all the way up to the temple. Now it gets a little claustrophobic in there and everybody's tired from climbing steps, but I think it's gonna be really cool and I wanna show you what it looks like. Psalm 134, a Psalm of Ascents, Underground Edition. Behold, bless the Lord, all you servants of the Lord, who by night stand in the house of the Lord. Lift up your hands in the sanctuary and bless the Lord who made heaven and earth. Bless you from Zion. How is Josh fitting through here? That's what I want to know.
Howdy, y'all. Let's go on a hunt for archaeology. Follow me.
This will be good. Okay, never mind. Well, this is narrower than I thought. Our camera operator, Harry, could not see where he was going till he realized he was still wearing his sunglasses. Not recommended when you're passing through this ancient water canal tunnel beneath the Pilgrim's Road. It gets crazy.
Well, let's just say the claustrophobia is not intense enough to explain what we just went through. I was contorted like a small pygmy animal of any kind going through that. When you picture that this is the sewage system, right, in ancient Israel, when you think of Indiana Jones and he's going through looking for, the Ark of the Covenant, and there's all those rats going everywhere in Venice underneath the deal, this is worse. This is worse. But guess what? Somebody had to make that. Isn't that right, Doctor?
Yeah, actually, I didn't think it was that bad.
Oh, 6'8", 315 pounds. Bad.
But coming through here now is a whole heck of a lot easier because they'd cleared this all out. When people first discovered it, you could barely pass through, if at all. But the cool thing is that this is a drainage channel area, and all kinds of things got washed down and filled in these holes that kind of tell us about how old it is and that this is the temple times.
That's right. The things that they found here, tons of Second Temple period minted coins. Imagine people are walking in the streets and the coins fall out of their pocket and then rolls down to the sewer. It's all happened to us. It happened to people back then. But they also found a extravagant artifact, this golden bell that used to be on the high priest's hem of his garment, to ring when he went into the Holy of Holies. I mean, that means a high priest walked over here, he lost the gold bell. They found a clay inscription that verified the purity of an offering. But tragically, they found a Roman sword. And the story, as Josephus goes, is that during 70 AD, when the Romans breaking through Jerusalem's walls, they're destroying, killing everybody, people try to come down here to hide from them. And they literally lived down here in the pitch black with their families until the Romans figured out. And they brought people in on that end, soldiers on that end, soldiers on this end, met them in the middle, and they just massacred all the people. It's a tragic, tragic story.
To be clear, to this day, I could barely make it through, if even at all. So not much has changed since what you were talking about.
There you go.
Yeah, for sure.
How would you even swing a sword at anybody in there? What are you, like, your arms are just out, I'm gonna get
That's
you,
how
no, I'm gonna get you.
The
Like,
Romans did that
The
quick,
bludgeon?
quick jab move.
Poking,
Short
yeah,
story.
skewer, man.
Terrible.
All right, guys, I know it sucked going through that narrow passage. I should have warned y'all in advance.
you said nothing?
But here we finally made it. This is what I wanted everybody to see. These are the foundation stones to the western wall. This is the western wall goes all the way back here to here. And the bedrock of Mount Moriah literally is right down here. That is insane. We can never see it, but it's right here.
And I think how high this wall goes here. You know, we've got 40, 50 feet from here, where we just continue going up that southern, southwest end of the wall with these giant ashlar stones that, again, I think go back all the way to the time of Solomon. But they're hidden from view. You don't see, like, you just see a little bit of the stone that's above ground. When you realize how much stonework is really down here. And in addition to that, all these drainage channels that we came through, all that stonework, which, you know, that's the common stonework. Here you can see we're coming to a much finer stonework. Now we're moving from the common to the holy. And so this is, you know, a lot higher level of craftsmanship and work, but it's still the massive amount of stonework that was needed, because at the same time you put in the temple and you put in the walkway, all these structures, right, all come together at the same time. You don't just have the temple, but you don't have any supporting structure. Why did it take Solomon 20 years to build this whole temple complex? Because he had to not only do the Temple Mount as a place to put the temple, build the temple itself, but also all the supporting structure, the drain channels, the walkways. Wow. You know, it's phenomenal. That's why he needed 150,000 men.
So about how tall is this wall below the surface of the ground?
You can be 30, 40 feet below ground level at some of these spots.
That makes so much sense that this wall is still remaining then throughout history. For it to be dug that deep below the ground and all the way up, I don't even know how you knock this down with primitive weapons.
Yeah, that's what Josephus actually wrote. I think people have read him to be talking about Herod.
Yeah.
But I think, no, he's clearly talking about Solomon, and he said he built these walls for all time immovable.
Yeah.
And you look at this, this is definitely for all time immovable.
Hold on, I'll fix it really quick.
Yeah, push harder.
Ain't going anywhere, Josh.
Nope, it's not evident. Nope. Should
Well
stretch.
done.
If I stretch first, maybe.
Well done, Solomon. 1 Kings 7, 9 through 10. All these were of costly stones, cut to size, trimmed with saws inside and out, from the foundation to the eaves, and also on the outside to the great court. The foundation was of costly stones, large stones, some 10 cubits and some 8 cubits.
You know, just the size of this massive wall right here, seeing the artifacts, the age of them all around, and the size of these stones. When you look at these stones, Dr. Christian, what do you see?
Yeah, I see the stones that 1 Kings 7 is talking about. Costly stones, dressed stones, stones that are sawed, you know, stones of 8 cubits and 10 cubits. You know, this is the kind of stonework that I think is being described in the Bible. And you look here and you go, yeah, that's a costly stone. That's a sawed stone. That's a stone of 8 to 10 cubits. I mean, it just blows my mind to look at this work and think about the amount of manpower that it would have taken to build something like this. And it's just incredible. But what's more incredible is that the Bible is telling us something fantastic, and we come here and we see something fantastic.
So you're saying the cost of the stone, the amount of work put into it, there's a temple up top, not a mosque.
100%.
This is commitment for the house of God.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Look at this, all the way from here down to the end. It just keeps going. This is one stone, guys.
I don't know if I want to see the guy that picked that up.
Psalm 81:3. Blow the shofar at the new moon, at the full moon, on our feast day. Look at all these fallen stones, the destruction from the second temple, and trumpeting stone. This is quite a gem that was discovered right here.
Yeah, it has written in Hebrew from the place of trumpeting. And so we can see it fell from this corner, another one of the pinnacles of the temple, right? And then how do you know that was the temple location? Well, that's where they were trumpeting. That's where they would blow the shofar, right? Besides the amazing amount of work that goes into this structure, that you go, what do you do with this? You know, that kind of work for? It's when you're trying to dedicate it to God.
Well, that's pretty important, and that verifies that there was indeed a temple on this Temple Mount.
Yeah, 100%.
Acts 3:1. One day Peter and John were going up to the temple at the time of prayer, at 3 in the afternoon. Now a man who is lame from birth was being carried to the temple gate called Beautiful, where he was put every day to beg from those going into the temple courts.
All right, guys, so what we're looking at here is the other gate that survived the destruction of the temple. It's the southern gate. And here's the entryway for it. You can see it's all covered up in stone, but it's literally the place that John and Peter came. They entered in, there was a lame man, and they said, gold and silver we don't have, you know, but what we have we'll give to you. And they said, get up and walk. And he got up and walked.
Right there.
You know, right here. And this goes in the long hallway all the way up into the temple. And these are the steps that they would have ascended, going all the way back to the Pool of Siloam. Right after they've washed, they've ascended. And then up through here, it also connects to Solomon's portico.
Oh, wow.
And so the whole scene of Acts 3 was played out right here.
That's incredible. You can definitely see it. They tried to cover it up. Doesn't work. Guys, this was quite a day, quite an adventure. We got to see a lot of evidence of past temples to help us better understand that third temple that I believe is going to be built up there as well. But still, for me, I'm a very visual guy, and to really, you know, see and witness where those temples stood, I think we're going to have to get on top of the Temple Mount itself.
Brother,
What?
last time when you said, Josh, we only have to do this once. We go up to the Temple Mount, we film some stuff illegally, you sing the Shema a few times, never again. What happened to never again?
We got a new message that matters on the Temple Mount. Okay.
What about the Spirit goes everywhere? Like we can sing it from here and it's just as good, and then, nah.
We'll have someone distract the Jordanian walks while we get some really good shots. Who else is with me? Huh?
How much walking is involved? That's what I want to know.
Just-
because
just
we
a
just
little
walked
bit.
25,000 miles today.
Okay, we'll take a good night's sleep and then we'll go up in the morning.
I can't wait. This is exciting, guys.
I knew he
Let's
was going
go.
to be on your side.
I mean, I'm here.
You know
so-
the Temple Mount cats are agents, right? They turned us in last time. That's why you... I want your word that I'm getting a good night's sleep.
We're getting a good night's sleep.
2 whole hours.
Next week on the Bearded Bible Brothers.
This place is so big, 36 acres. It is the largest structure like this that's ever been built anywhere.
There's going to be an actual man. He's going to be this Antichrist figure. It's a literal prophecy.
It's been sealed up for 2,000 years. Eventually, this is going to get opened back up when the Messiah returns.
That's why we like to refer to this, AKA Tribulation Temple, as the Temple of Doom, because this is the most horrifying act that the Jews will ever witness in all history. To the shock of no one, most world governments have turned against Israel, but unfortunately, so have many church congregations. Very few ministries are supporting the Jewish people or teaching the truth about Israel in God's covenant plans.
In fact, if you scroll through social media, you'll see feed after feed of churches teaching that the Jewish people are not God's chosen people and not the fulfillment of a covenant. At Soul 11 Ministries, we've been preaching the same message for 47 years. Why? Because God's message does not change. The Jewish people are His chosen people, but He also made a way for the Gentile to be grafted in. Consider donating to this ministry to be a part today of getting this message out. You can call 1-800-WONDERS, or you can click on the link below at levitt.com. Did you know the Bearded Bible Brothers is an outreach of Soul 11 Ministries? That means we are entirely donor funded. Consider giving at levitt.com. You can also join the Bearded Bible Bonanza to access additional content at patreon.com/Bearded Bible Bonanza. Please support our mission to spread the gospel of Yeshua by subscribing to our social media and sharing our online messages. Join the Bearded Brothers in person on a study tour of Israel, Greece, and Petra and see the Bible come alive. And as always, pray for the peace of Jerusalem.